Oh, howdy all, grab yourselves a beer, it is time for some Path of Exile discussion. Today I wanted to give an update on the character that I league started Heist with, which is my Glacial Cascade miner. It is currently level 92, and I'll bring up the passive tree. You'll notice there's an empty jewel slot at the moment. That's because I just hit 92, and so I just allocated this jewel, and I haven't got around to actually putting something in there as yet. Very similar to what I had originally planned, and the build feels squishy, but it definitely works. You'll notice I've not taken any cluster jewels. That's because there's just nothing extraordinary for a mine character, or for that matter for an elemental spellcaster. There are a few solid options, just nothing that jumped out as a must-have. Okay, so in terms of the character's equipment, the current setup that I've got is a whole bunch of garbage life resist items that I picked up while I was sort of filling out my character, getting them to a point that they could function in maps. Broadly speaking, I've kept those. There are two good items that I've picked up, however. So firstly, we have the Tremor Rod. I'm only running a 5 link at the moment. I do want to upgrade it to a 6 link, and currently I'm using Trap and Mine Damage support, Minefield, Glacial Cascade, Hypothermia, and Controlled Destruction. And then the unlinked gem is Increased Critical Strike support. I do want to link in Increased Critical Strike support. It'll solve a lot of problems for the build and considerably increase the damage output that I've got. Other options that I could use in that slot as well are Awakened added cold damage support would be really good. And really I've just got to run the numbers on it once I have configured other gear on the character. And additionally, once I take into account the fact that for Tremor Rod, getting multiple green sockets can be a little bit difficult. The other good piece of equipment that I've got is this Machina Mitts. Machina Mitts is probably the best in slot set of gloves for almost any mine character, and the reason is that it provides you with basically the only source in the game of Life Leech. Life Leech is a phenomenal defensive layer. It doesn't actually protect you from big hits, but it means that the small hits aren't constantly adding up, because the small hits are basically getting dealt with by the Life Leech. So if I got hit for, say, 8 instances of 1000 damage spread out over 10 seconds, Life Leech on its own would probably be enough to keep me alive through that. Everything else is life resist crap, and that's basically where we're standing at the moment. I'm even using a talisman because I happen to luck out and get a reasonably good one. In terms of body armor, I'm currently using a piece of Incursion Life Resist armor, which is just solving problems for me at the moment. I am considering replacing this with Calm's Heart as one option. The other option that I've got is replacing it with a Shaper Chest that has a Spell Crit mod on it. I've not decided, and as a result, I've just kept this in place. And because I may well be going to Calm's Heart, I haven't socketed anything in there because I'm not going to get to keep that. In terms of gem links, you'll notice my Machina Mitts is unlinked. This is just due to me not yet having found the 4-link recipe in the Delve Mines, and because I got these through turning in a set of divination cards that always gives you corrupted Machina Mitts, in fact 2 implicit corrupted, that means that I've not been able to link them. But that's fine. I want Frostbomb. Frostbomb I'm fine with as a 1-link, and I'm just leveling up Temporal Chains in there at the moment. I'm also just leveling up another curse, Enfeeble, and I'm considering a few options there, possibly having Frostbomb linked to Awakened Curse on Hit, or which is now called Awakened Hex Touch support, and then connecting it to both of those curses. So that's something I'm considering. But Frostbomb is a utility skill that I'm definitely using, just for the cold exposure that applies 25% penalty to cold resistance, and I'm currently using it unlinked. I have Arcane Surge linked to Flame Dash as a movement skill. I've been happy with this. This build is extraordinarily mana hungry. That's hence the mana flask that you see here. And this provides a little bit of mitigation for that. Flame Dash, though, is just really, really good. I've liked it since it was put into its current form, and I don't see that changing anytime soon. I am using Skitterbots linked to Bone Chill support. I was originally planning on using Infernal Legion as well. I discussed that in the original build guide, but I've found that it's a bit more comfortable on the mana without having Infernal Legion. I do desperately need to get some flat fire damage to spells to fix up some issues, and the plan was always that the level 92 jewel slot that we just picked up, that was going to have an Abyss jewel with flat fire damage to spells, so a Hypnotic Eye jewel. I just haven't got around to sourcing one of those yet. But the intention is that my critical strikes will inflict burning on enemies through that Abyss jewel, and that will then trigger the benefits for having recently ignited, critical strike multiplier against burning enemies from Explosives Expert. So that's the plan, haven't actioned it as yet. In terms of the amulet, I just happened across this problem-solving talisman when I was running a heist early on. Surprised I even saw it, because usually I don't pick up talismans anymore. But this one just solved a lot of problems. It had exactly the amount of resist I needed at the time to cap out my resist. It also had life, it had dexterity, which I needed, and it had some critical strike chance and the physical damage. I'm definitely not keeping this long term, but it's something that just does what it needs to do, and everything else is life and resist items. In terms of flasks, we have an instant life flask of staunching, because that's exactly what you need in the game. I have a very bad diamond flask that needs to change. My intention here is to replace this with with one of a few things. Possibly we'll replace it with a Taste of Hate, although that will require me to source more base critical strike somewhere else. Or alternately, and for that matter, that can be from base critical strike support gem, which I'm leveling there. Alternately, I could replace it with a Cinder Swallow urn. If that works with mines, I have to actually check that interaction. Or I could replace it with a Diamond Flask of the Order, so one that has critical strike, which gives you additional critical strikes as well. Choices to make there, choices that I've been putting off and haven't got around to doing yet. Almost Perfect Rolls Atzuri Flask, which I kind of need to quality up. For some reason I had not gotten around to doing that, and even though it's only 2 points of quality, it could... There we go, that's really easy. Then a very good Quicksilver Flask, Alchemist of Adrenaline, and this Mana Flask. This should be of Anti-Freeze instead of Anti-Bleed, but the key thing here is that it is an instant Mana Flask, instant Eternal Mana Flask, because, oh my god, this build can be mana hungry. Even running on a 5-link Tremor Rod. So that's sort of a 6-link, but the way that mines work, they chew through your mana really quickly. So that's a bit of a sense as to where we're set up at the moment. I think at this point I will go and run a heist to demonstrate what the build feels like. So let's take this Deception heist and we will throw an Alchemy Orb on it. And we have nothing in there that's horrible, so let's go and run that and demonstrate the way that the build actually plays. I will bring Gianna along because I'm leveling her. Okay, in we go. So this one's level 80, so it's tier 13 equivalent, although heists are considerably harder than a comparable level map. Just having a quick look at the treasure icons, we've got a couple of the armor ones, which is nothing extraordinary, but also nothing bad. I will be opening as many of them as I can, looking for any potential synthesized items that might drop, which can be quite good at item level 80, or also just some of the other currency items. I haven't got my Skitterbots on for some reason. That needs to be fixed. It is now. And additionally, this build is fairly squishy, but not devastatingly so. I haven't got very many. I haven't got a large life pool, but I do have acrobatics and phase acrobatics, which is more defensive than it might sound. Okay, so let's have a quick look. What do we got here? What is that? Oh, that's Coming Calamity and Carcass Jack. So synthesized items you always want to check. If they've got a good implicit, then they're worth keeping. This one doesn't. That's just a single veil. Blazing Salvo +1 projectile, that is really good. That's actually so good that I'm going to walk out of the instance to preserve it. Please, GGG, fix that, because it's a real... it's an anticlimactic way to play the game. It sort of ruins the design of Heist, but you shouldn't be able to come back in after doing this. But you can, so while you can. While it's possible, I will abuse it. And okay, once we get back to here, one of the key things this build can do is project damage around corners. It was something that I've designed, well, not really designed. There was one of the factors that caused me to choose this build, and also to preload damage before you open a door. You'll notice I am using the Black Hole skill. I have that linked to Second Wind and to increased AoE, and I've been really impressed with it. It's not a damage skill, although it does just enough damage to kill you in physical reflect maps. But it is crowd control, and I think it's my opinion that it is a better crowd control skill than Decoy Totem is, and that it is just genuinely really strong. You should only use it if you're in content that's non-trivial for you. So if you're in content that's really, really easy, then there's no reason for it. It will slow you down. But if you're in content that is putting up a bit of a fight, then it's definitely worth your while. That's only Asherin, so I don't really care about that. I'm just checking some of these. No. There are some just weird things that can drop in these. 2 implicit corrupted, rares, all sorts of weird and wonderful stuff like that. The synthesized and fractured items are probably the most interesting. Okay, so here's the last of the loot. Oh, that's that. This is telling me that I need to update my loot filter. I've still got day 3 prices on it. So Pride Before the Fall was still worth something at that point, as it sort of always is. Count's Heart though, just gets oversupplied really quickly in a league, and I haven't adjusted my loot filter to take account of that. So it's still putting it as a Divine Orb tier div card. Okay, in we go, and let's push through here. Open that. Preload damage again, as always. You'll see how if you watch my mana, you'll see just how brutal this detonating mines is on it. Okay, so I've got Gianna opening the door for me. Deal with all the trash for her, and then we will see. Nope, she's buggy. Those bugs are getting really annoying on the heist doors. I don't mind the doors in general because they're a good spot to fight monsters, but when they bug, they're really annoying. Okay, so we'll grab the heirloom and we'll get the hell out of here, as per normal. And you'll see again that the Void Sphere will be really good. Not on this door, but on the next one. Youch, that was a big hit there, and that was because I thought I had mana and I didn't. So I needed to hit the... That's why I have an instant mana flask and not a slow motion one. Because when you need mana, you need it right now. Okay, so where are we? Lost because I misread the minimap. I believe I've taken a completely wrong turn here. And actually, the exit is this way, isn't it? Usually these are much more linear than this. This one's messy. So there's Void Sphere. It's pulling all the monsters in at the same time that my Glacial Cascades are pushing them away. That causes the monsters to lose a lot of action time, and is essentially one of those... It's an indirect defensive layer. It's not like your character is tougher, but your character is passively capable of making the monsters less effective than they should be. And that's one of the things that I find really helps a lot on this build. When you're dealing with monsters that are quite tanky. Oh, that was me flame dashing at the wrong time, flame dashing into trouble. So that was my fault. Here again, we're using the Void Sphere to neutralize the enemies somewhat, in conjunction, because this is a very dangerous pull. Here we've got a whole pack of allies can't die behind us. I'm just going to deal with this unique monster. think they buffed the rest through that flame wall. And the allies can't die monster is dead, which means that it should be smooth sailing from here. One last Void Sphere to dissuade any pursuers, and then we're out. Okay, so hopefully that gives a bit of a sense as to how the build is feeling. It's certainly functioning fine when it comes to fighting, endgame bosses and the like. I've been fine with the 4 Watchstone Conquerors. I failed a Cirrus earlier, but that was due in part to having really bad connection at that time. So I haven't had a chance to get a rematch with Cirrus since then. There's no reason the build can't do it. It's just that I was lagging too much to dodge his beams, and I don't have the tankiness to dodge the big ones. To endure the big hits. In terms of the upgrades that I'm chasing at the moment, assuming I decide to keep playing this rather than move on to another build, the key upgrades I need Chaos Resistance. It's just not an option to stick at minus 60 Chaos Resistance. I'm familiar enough with all of the Alhesman content that I'm not concerned about Chaos Resistance on him, but Chaos Resistance for Cirrus is really important. Chaos Resistance for just general purpose trash mobs, and particularly it seems in some of these heists, I've not been able to figure out which ones, I'll just take a big chaos damage hit out of nowhere. That said, I've been able to do a bunch of heists and grand heists with the character. Additionally, this is just a show off. I got really lucky and pulled this Thieves Trinket last night, which was something that sort of made my day. This is essentially a 1 stat item. It's all about that 3% chance for Regals to upgrade to Exalts, and that's quite possibly the biggest individual drop I've ever had in Path of Exile. Anyways, that's the status of the character at the moment. In terms of my overall thoughts, Glacial Cascade is still solid. It is better at... Glacial Cascade Mines. It is better at anti-trash work than it was in the past, and it is weaker against bosses, but still very, very serviceable. If you've got any comments or questions, fire away below. Otherwise, I'm going to leave it there. I hope you have a good one.